Hello backpackers, this is Juan from Juan Backpacks and I'm here today to do a deep dive in comparing the Zpacks Camp Sandals. This is the standard version. They have a new deluxe version that has a heel on it versus the Jimmies Foldable Sandals. So we got the Zpacks Camp Shoe versus the Jimmies Foldable Sandals. I'm going to run through a number of kind of factors and considerations. So this will be a deep dive between two, I think, really solid camp shoes and choices. And I will talk about the pros and cons of each. And I'll also talk about kind of like the best usage for each one of these, in my opinion, now after using them for a number of trips and a bunch of miles later. I'm going to refer to my notes because it's quite a long list of comparisons. And I want to make sure that I stay on track and keep things, moving along. Basically, I'm not one of those folks who practices a lot for my YouTube videos. I basically just get an idea, jot it down, and start rolling with it. So I'm going to roll with it. First of all, I'm going to just do kind of a walk around of each one of these, and then I'll dive into the specific comparison points that I have. So Zpacks Camp Shoes, you can see here, they've got really a mesh top. It's kind of like the mesh you would normally see on a front pocket of a backpack. And then they've got, basically some probably nylon around the outside here. Got a sole with some traction on it. They've got a small bungee that's a heel hook for the heel. And then also an adjuster here to adjust that heel hooking. And so you can see here, it's got a really wide toe box as well. So that's just kind of the walk around of this and kind of the minimal features. The Jimmies Camp Sandals, you can see here, thicker soles, multiple straps. You've got straps here in the front. It's an open toe design. And then you've got a heel for around your heel, and then also a strap that's adjustable for over top of kind of the top part of your foot / ankle. And you've got this foldable action going on. So that's kind of the Jimmies sandal. So let's dive into some of the comparisons. First of all, as an ultralight backpacker, one of the key features we're always thinking about is weight. And so weight here really goes to the Zpacks Camp Shoes. The weight on Zpacks Camp Shoes is about 2.3 ounces for this pair. 2.3 ounces. So that's really super light for a pair of camp shoes. The weight on the Jimmies sandals, and I've weighed these on my own scale. The ones I have actually are about 5.3 ounces or so for the pair. And so they are, kind of twice as heavy. Some of the listings on the website are 7.6 ounces. And again, I don't think that's what they came out on my scale, but maybe my scale is off. So definitely the weight factor, weight advantage goes to Zpacks. The form factor, that means the size of the sandal, kind of the configuration of it, and then also that relates to how it packs in your pack. And the Zpacks is super thin. It can actually be rolled up as well into a little ball. And you could roll them separately if you want to, and then smash it down. So if we look at the comparison here, compared to these folded and then stacked or set side by side, it's obvious that the form factor advantage goes to the Zpacks Camp Sandals. And I have found on my trips that it is much easier to stash the Zpacks Camp Sandals than it is to do the Jimmies. I've put both of these into my front pocket because that's where I kind of like to keep my camp shoes, not inside of the backpack. And these I can put literally just along the backpack in the front pocket, and they don't use any room at all because they're smashed up against the back of the pack. These, even when I do that, like this, I've got a lot of volume there. Or if I do this, it kind of gets even worse because it stacks them, and then I got to put them in my front pocket kind of like this. And so actually, when I've used these, I used them on the Ray Lakes loop that I did about a month ago, and I ended up hanging them off my pack, which I really do not like to hang things off of my pack. And so they definitely were a little bit hard to find space for. Maybe I should have packed them inside the pack themselves. But definitely the advantage, again, for form factor and packability goes to Zpacks. So there's two things that go to Zpacks. Breathability, I think that honestly, the comparison between both of these, because I've worn both of these at camp, both of them are very breathable. So I don't really think there's any appreciable difference. I mean, obviously these are open-toed, the Jimmies. These are closed-toed, but there's enough breathability here that I've never had problems with my feet drying out being in these. So I have to kind of call that kind of an even, even performance there. Foot protection. Now this is kind of where things start to separate a little bit. The foot protection, obviously you got a 0.4 millimeter, I think it's like, yeah, 4 millimeter, sorry, 4 millimeter sole on the Zpacks. And again, these are camp shoes specifically. And so 4 millimeters will get you around the tent, around camp, maybe a little walk to like, to get some water, something like that, as long as it's not too rugged of a trip, not too long of a trip. But these are primarily designed for around camp, for through hikers around camp and just keep things light. The, foot protection here, is really better because obviously we got a lot more thickness to the sole of the sandals, and that makes these sandals a little bit more versatile. So if you're going to want to use these camp shoes for other uses like in-town use, or doing more stuff around camp and maybe walking further to get water, obviously the Jimmies would kind of get the nod in that case. But both of them are really nice in terms of protection of feet. But again, the advantage there definitely goes to the Jimmies. Comfort around camp, quite honestly, I felt like both of them were comfortable. I didn't find any appreciable difference other than if you are in like really difficult terrain. I would say that because of the thin sole here, you're likely to feel more of the ground, or if you have pokey things, then these may not be the sandals for you, even around camp. And then obviously these would do better with, pokey things. Putting on and taking off, that's what I call the fiddle factor. Really the advantage there goes to Zpacks because it's just so easy at night to slide your foot in here and then just put that bungee on. Whereas definitely what I found with the Jimmies is that, number one, you can see here, this strap, since I don't have it on, has already come unbuckled, so it doesn't stay buckled. So you've got to mess with both the buckles a lot of times because they come unbuckled. You've got to then make sure you can slide your foot in here and get your heel thing on. And I find these, and because they're folded, they do this a lot, right? Because they're folding your pack all day. And so I find them more fiddly at night if I'm trying to get into these, and even more fiddly when I'm at the end of the camp, end of the hiking day, and I'm just trying to get into something quickly. It's just kind of annoying, to be honest with you. So the fiddle factor is higher with these. I actually ended up just sliding them into the front part of the shoe at night to go out and relieve myself at night. And then of course, then you get this flopping around, you get the trip factor going, and I'm afraid, I'll trip over something, especially in the dark. And so I really felt like these were a lot more fiddly, the straps and so forth. These are super simple to get on and off. They're just like slippers. You slide them on, you got the bungee, and you're ready to go. So I would say fiddle factor, higher here, lower here. So the advantage goes to the Zpacks Camp Shoes. Town and travel use. So a backpacker sometimes on long distance backpacks does town stops for resupplies, for a rest off trail, whatever it might be. This really is a specialized pair of camp shoes. I won't say that you could not wear these around town, but I just don't think the comfort factor is there. I don't think that these were made to walk longer distances, like a couple of blocks someplace. And so I just wouldn't be comfortable using this in town. Whereas if I'm having these Jimmies, maybe this is my choice if I know I'm going to make several camps, several town stops, and I want something a little bit more versatile. I'm going to go with the Jimmies. Neither one of these are really truly intended for hiking, but I think it's worth mentioning the Jimmies are a little bit more versatile in terms of what you can do out and around camp because they're just more, more substantial type of shoe, more like a sandal. The best feature, I think the best features of each of these as I'm comparing them, Zpacks definitely form factor and weight. So if you're like a hardcore ultralighter and you're doing lots of miles and you're just in camp, I can't see that you would go wrong with this. Um, the the best feature here is probably the versatility, that you can use it around camp if you're willing to take the extra weight hit. You can use it, to walk down the lake to go fishing or along the creek to go fishing, because these are just more, more durable, thicker sole. They're more substantial once you do get them on your feet, and they stay put a lot better in tougher terrain. And so I would say they would get the nod. The Jimmies would get the nod in terms of versatility. The best choice for an ultralight backpacker, well, I think if you're a true ultralight backpacker, the Zpacks is the stronger choice. It's 2.3 ounces. It saves you basically 5.3 ounces if you're comparing it to the Jimmies at around 7 ounces. So the website says there. And so that's a really meaningful difference in weight and also a difference in form factor, and it complements your ultralight gear significantly. I would say that Jimmies make more sense when versatility is a priority, when you are wanting to do more stuff and roam from camp more, maybe a little bit of fishing along the creek, maybe just going to a long water spot to filter water and come back to camp, or just wandering around and doing some exploring close to camp. I think that these are more versatile. And as I said earlier, if you're doing town stops and you want a pair of shoes that's comfortable to wear around town, that will allow you to walk longer distances and be kind of like, like a real pair of sandals and look like a real pair of sandals, then, that's your choice. So that's my comparison between the Zpacks camp shoe and the Jimmies foldable sandals. I hope this helps you kind of ferret out the differences between the two, ferret out some of the better use cases for each one of these, and make the best choice for you in your backpacking gear. Until next time, backpackers, get out there, do some hiking, do some backpacking. Stop watching YouTube videos, unless they're mine. Then watch them all from start to finish. Later, backpackers.